The ego is not master in its own house. Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. The mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Where it was, there shall ego be. A person who feels pleasure in producing pain in someone else is not a good person. Time spent with cats is never wasted. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. The conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun and falling back into the great subterranean pool of subconscious from which it rises. The goal of all life is death. Everywhere I go, I find a poet has been there before me. Neurotics complain of their illness, but they make the most of it, and when it comes to taking it away from them, they will defend it like a lioness her young. The only person with whom you have to compare yourself is you in the past. Analogies, it is true, decide nothing, but they can make one feel more at home. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or deepest despair. They can transfer knowledge from teacher to student. Words enable the orator to sway his audience and dictate its decisions. Words are capable of arousing the strongest emotions and prompting all men's actions. Thought is action in rehearsal. Out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. The act of birth is the first experience of anxiety, and thus the source and prototype of the affect of anxiety. Men are more immoral than they think, and far more immoral than they can imagine. The great question that has never been answered, and which I have not yet been able to answer, despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, is, what does a woman want? The first requisite of civilization is that of justice. The unconscious of one human being can react upon that of another without passing through the conscious. Wherever I go, I find a poet has been there before me. The mind is a powerful amplifier of anxiety. Children are completely egoistic. They feel their needs intensely and strive ruthlessly to satisfy them. Love and work and love, that's all there is. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. The sexual life of adult women is a dark continent for psychology. The devil is nothing but we ourselves. No one who, like me, conjures up the most evil of those half-tamed demons that inhabit the human breast, and seeks to wrestle with them, can expect to come through the struggle unscathed. The first requisite of civilization is that of justice. In the depths of my heart, I can't help being convinced that my dear fellow men, with a few exceptions, are worthless. One is very crazy when in love. Illusions commend themselves to us because they save us pain and allow us to enjoy pleasure instead. We must therefore accept it without complaint when they sometimes collide with the bit of reality, against which they are dashed to pieces. The ego is not sharply separated from the id. Its lower portion merges into it. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. We are what we are because we have been what we have been. The psychical, whatever its nature may be, is itself unconscious. I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. The madman is a dreamer awake. Civilized society is perpetually menaced with disintegration through this primary hostility of men towards one another. Time spent with cats is never wasted. The only person with whom you have to compare yourself is you in the past. The mind is a powerful amplifier of anxiety. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility.